This has New Orleans Pelicans fans fired up, as there has been a lot of trade reports recently that fans are absolutely not liking. And when all of this continues to heat up and we hear multiple trade talks, NBA fans around the league are hating this deal that is now coming to fruition, that is really being talked about a lot in NBA circles right now. We're going to go over what this deal is, why it's so hated, and what exactly is going on with the New Orleans Pelicans, and why we keep seeing the exact same player in a lot of trade talks surrounding the Pelicans, and where all the truth to these rumors and reports come from. And we're going to jump right into that, guys. But right before we do that, if you are part of that 50% that's not subscribed to Pelicans Digest, make sure to subscribe for daily New Orleans Pelicans updates. We got a lot of great videos coming out every single day that you don't want to miss out on. But let's jump into it, guys. There is a lot to go over on the team right now, because when we look at the New Orleans Pelicans and Joe Dumars taking over, we understand that really anything is possible because he didn't draft a lot of these players. There is a world where he decides he wants to bring in his own guys. That's pretty common across sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey, whatever. Typically, GMs will want to do their own thing, bring in their own people, and not just own a team and run a team that they've inherited, because then they feel like they haven't put their stamp on anything, and they are afraid that if they don't make changes, they could obviously be fired. Because of that, the Pelicans have been involved in a lot of trade talks and a lot of trades. I mean, acquiring Jordan Poole, doing the deal that got them Derek Queen. There's been a lot of moves that the Pelicans have already made to show that they are pretty much bought in on this core right now, with Joe Dumars just putting his own stamp on things. But there's always a chance that in this absolute wild, wild west, that the Pelicans don't play well, and then they're going to have to recoil and kind of change paths. And one of the ways that they could easily do that is by trading one of their, if not their most valuable asset, which is Trey Murphy, who's on an excellent contract and also has been tagged as a guy who's been in trade talks before, time and time again. Now, the Pelicans would ask for a very high price, especially because what we saw Mikal Bridges go for to the New York Knicks a couple of years ago, or I guess a year ago, because of that 5-4 whatever pick haul it was with the Knicks and the Nets. We do see a world where the Pelicans are going to hold Trey Murphy at incredibly high value. So if a team wants him, they're going to have to get desperate. But there is multiple trade talks surrounding Trey Murphy, and one of these actually does have fans fairly split on if it's a good deal or not, because of the amount of assets the Pelicans would be recovering. But also, it does mean one thing going forwards. The Pelicans are accepting their fate. They are accepting the fact that they're not a contender. And this deal would be where the Oklahoma City Thunder receive Trey Murphy in a deal while the Pelicans trade Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Ousmane Dieng, a 2026 first-round pick with a top 4 protection via Philadelphia, and a 2030 first-round pick unprotected of the OKC Thunder. The Thunder are likely going to be good in 5 years from now, so that pick is a little bit questionable, but also you never know what's going to happen over 5 years in the NBA. Things can change very fast over the span of 5 years. Kevin Durant left the Thunder, joined the Warriors, won 2 championships, got injured. The Raptors with Kawhi Leonard won a championship, and then Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard were on the Brooklyn Nets and Los Angeles Clippers, respectively, at the end of 2015 to 2020. So when we consider all that, it's hard to predict what's going to happen in the NBA over 5 years. I mean, even 5 years ago, the differences in the NBA are absolutely insane. Who would have ever thought in 2020 that Luka Doncic is going to end up on the Lakers in 5 years, and it's going to be in some trade for Anthony Davis? And I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because that's the most obvious one. But there's so many different things that we could talk about considering the situation. And it always stays pretty crazy in the NBA. So we know that trades can happen, and it wouldn't be that shocking to see Trey Murphy get moved. And the Thunder would be solidifying their team even more going into this. And this was broken down by Bleacher Report's Zach Buckley, who mentioned the Thunder have no obvious reason to tinker with their title-winning roster. In this exercise, though, they have no other choice. Their trade assets are among the league's very best, and they probably have more roster pieces than they can put to use. Consolidating for them for a difference maker could be in the cards. Then they'd have to jump through some financial hoops long-term to keep their core together, but that seems bound to happen even if they don't make a deal. This trade would help ensure the good times are as good as they can be before the inevitable cap crunch that happens. Murphy's 4-year, $112 million deal would make the future even trickier to navigate, but he'd be a hand-in-glove fit on the court. If any franchise can afford to prioritize the present, it's probably the one that just spent a non-significant chunk of the offseason in a champagne-soaked state of celebration, which makes a ton of sense. I mean, as Buckley continues, Murphy's a 6'8" swingman who is overqualified for the 3-and-D duties that he'd likely handle in the Sooner State. He'd downshift his game a lot to fit, but that could make him all the more efficient off the ball on offense and more disruptive on defense. And when you look at Trey Murphy's numbers, the man shot 44% on the corner three. He would get a lot more of those attempts while also being an elite cutter for a team with excellent court spacing. And yeah, he wouldn't be averaging the same 21 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1 steal. Well, he might average more than a steal per game, honestly, and maybe a block per game as well, he'd become more of a defensive asset because of the existence of Jalen Williams there. You also consider, would Trey Murphy start? Would he start right next to Shea? And you have Shea, Trey Murphy, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein as your starting unit. That's something that we look at and do see a huge possibility, as it's also the best starting five in the NBA without a shadow of a doubt. So when you consider that as well, it does make sense that they would go out there and make a move very similar to this. It really does add up when we consider everything. And when we look at the Pelicans' depth, it does become sort of a situation where we understand, like, I don't know why does Jeremiah Fears over Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy's starting at the 2, or Herb Jones is starting at the 2. It doesn't matter. One of them start. They're the wings. But when it comes down to it, this is a team that does want to win games. They made that very clear by trading away next year's draft pick. So to trade Trey Murphy now, as I've said before, would be a pretty surprising move, just when you consider everything surrounding the team right now. They're trying to win games. They're trying to no longer tank. And the real question is, are they going to be able to pull this off? That's the thing that we're going to have to see. So if we see this trade, it'll likely be at some point towards the middle of the season, once the Pelicans know if they're actually a contending team, or if they're a team that has good pieces, but ultimately is going to have to sell them all off for draft assets, which is possible. I know they don't control next year's pick, but it's not the first time that we've seen a deal like that happen, so we do have to understand that. Meanwhile, the Thunder, they get deeper. They also get a reason to play Nikola Topic as their point guard, who is very hyped up and was supposed to be a top 5 pick before tearing his ACL and going 14th overall to OKC a couple of years back. So when you consider that, and you shift Alex Caruso down to the 2, you could play Kenrich Williams, you could play Aaron Wiggins, you could play a few different guys there. AJ Mitchell could come in. He's a nice young piece as well. The Thunder have so much depth that does make sense that they would go out there and make a move like this for sure. And Cason Wallace, who the Pelicans would be getting back in the playoffs, showed a lot of spark, putting up 5.6 points, 2.7 rebounds, and 2.1 assists. Being an absolutely excellent defender as well, getting 1.4 steals per game in only 22 minutes of action. So that's something else that we consider, but also just looking at the Pelicans, or at the Thunder, looking at what they'd receive here. As for the Pelicans, they could see head of snake potential in Cason Wallace, who might one day be a brilliant offense-defense combo with this summer's number 8 pick, Jeremiah Fears. Getting the first 2 picks, the first-round picks, that would have obvious perks for a non-contender, while Isaiah Joe and Ousmane Dieng are young enough to fit a rebuilding effort that should New Orleans opt to head that route. Now, Cason Wallace last year averaged 8.4 points, 3.4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, getting 1.8 steals per game. Is an excellent defender who also shoots 35% from 3 and 47% from the field. He's efficient. And on a team like the Pelicans, he would have a lot of a better chance to really get better. He'd also be able to start at that point guard position because you could really just move Jordan Poole to the 2 in that case and actually have Cason Wallace play his natural position, which would be huge. Meanwhile, Isaiah Joe is an elite shooter who shot 55% on corner threes last year. Not to mention the fact that he shoots 41% from 3 overall and averages 10 points per game. He's someone who, for the now, you could use. Ultimately decide to trade him later for as many assets as humanly possible as the rebuild continues and the Pelicans just build up assets the same way that the OKC Thunder did. And it makes a lot of sense to go out there and do that. Something I do expect them to do going forwards as well. Now, Isaiah Joe in the playoffs, he got kind of scarce minutes. He played 10 minutes per game, but still averaged 5 points, 1 rebound, and shot well. He shot 49% from the field and 41% from 3 in that span also. So he kept the shooting up. It is a move that I'm intrigued in for sure. It's one of those moves that if the Pelicans are going to trade Trey Murphy, it's a trade like that I want to see. What do you guys think? What do you guys want to see happen? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. I'll catch you later.